Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Muhi Khwaja with American Muslim Community Foundation, and today on the Muslim Philanthropy podcast, we are honored to have Adel Syed, who is the CEO of UMMA Clinic. Welcome to the show, Adel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let everybody know where you're located.
Sure. We're located in South Central Los Angeles in Southern California. Umma's been here now, going on for 25 years next year, inshallah.
Wow, that's really a fantastic achievement and really something that the community should be proud of. So, tell us a little bit more about your background and your journey to UMMA Clinic.
Sure. I started my journey at UMMA in 2013. Started off in working in development, much like yourself, and so understand, what it takes for grant writing, philanthropy, and really working at such an institution where Ummah it's so historic in terms of support from the American Muslim community. It was really eye-opening to see just the path of Ummah's growth even before I got here to the organization in 2013. And prior to that, I worked in civil rights and civil liberties, worked on some political campaigns in my volunteer time. Born outside of the United States, but raised in Southern California for the most part in a short stint at schools up in Northern California and some work in Northern California as well. But yeah, that's my brief journey to how I got to Ummah. Served in various roles at the organization prior to becoming CEO in 2018.
That's really cool. And, what kind of made you interested in development or the opportunity to kind of help out at UMA Clinic?
Yeah, I think development is such a unique field, as you can probably attest to. I think within, especially a larger organization, it's kind of the glue that tells a story of really the heart of an organization, understanding not only how service is being delivered or the value added to the general community, obviously in a nonprofit world, but then also understanding the funding streams and the mechanisms from foundations, from private philanthropy, and what works, what doesn't work. I think, I've always approached development as not a zero-sum game, that there's always abundance and, partnerships and collaborations and uplifting each other is the way we can make a greater impact in the community. And so development just seemed like an interesting balance. And, no one goes to school wanting to work in development and, studying development, quote unquote, because, it's so multifaceted. But I do think it's such a rich, I think, field to be in, especially if you find the right mix of individuals to work with and for, and doing community work. You can't beat that.
Yeah, I think definitely in the last 5 years, I've seen much more growth and interest in development as a career field from a studies point of view, right? A lot of people who have been doing it for decades kind of just fell into it, or it was a second career for them. But now, with places like Indiana University and their Lilly Family School of Philanthropy and the fundraising school, you see a lot more people actually getting bachelor's or master's in philanthropic studies and really paving the way to have the academic background along with the passion and the skill set and everything in between. And, I feel very fortunate to have started my career in nonprofits out of undergrad. And a lot of that was in part to an internship that I had at the University of Michigan called the Development Summer Internship Program. So, that unique opportunity of really learning the best practices and seeing it as a career opportunity, I think we're going to see a lot more people entering into this field as a profession right out the gate. And it's fantastic to see that, there's so many different types of certifications for nonprofit management, for development and fundraising specifically. And I think the Muslim community and the subset of nonprofits that are Muslim led are beginning to realize that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned an interesting point at starting off at a university. One of my mentors in the development world actually worked in a university setting for over 30 years of her career. And really, my understanding of development as an all-encompassing, really, department, and not just, what I was accustomed to seeing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the people in our community who've dedicated their lives in service to doing the fundraisers at community events or masajid, and knowing that that's just as important as having a development team, and situated within the context of a university and like advancement departments. I think really helped paved the way for my foundation in terms of what development work means, and I think how universities for centuries have approached, building endowments, working in context of foundations, donor cultivation, stewardship, and I think the university setting is such a great example of where it all starts, and really can provide guidance for many organizations.
Yeah, definitely. And having a mentor who has that skill set and background is just so valuable. So definitely agree on looking to universities as like a place where you can learn a lot about how they integrate and fundraise and build a strategy from the ground up, looking at the different departments, how they engage professors and the deans, and looking at if the university has a hospital, how they do fundraising for that, or a successful sports teams and alumni and everything in between. So I think for your growth at UMMA Clinic and kind of the trajectory that you've been on, what do you feel have been some of those things that you've been able to implement from things that you've learned as well?
Yeah, really one is planning, right? This you got to take out the guessing work. We don't approach anything else in life
Yeah.
without really having a plan in place, and the generosity in the American Muslim community specifically, and almost supported primarily by American Muslims, but we have folks of other faith traditions and backgrounds who support us. But knowing just the diversity even within amongst the American Muslim community, and knowing that there's certain ways to ask, there's times to ask, there's donor cultivation. It's a plan, and you have to be able to continue to plan. And at the end of the day, you're doing this so you can, have a greater impact. You can increase the capacity to carry out your mission as an organization. That you're actually allowing people to, take their hard-earned dollars and money and give it to an organization that can help and create value in the community at large. And that's such a big amana or a trust that you take on. And so and it with such heavy responsibility, you got to take the guessing work out. Then you got to plan ahead. So whether it's year-long campaigns, capital campaigns, the great work you all are doing at the American Muslim Community Foundation of helping families realize long-term giving and planning, is so
Hmm.
important, because it not only, I think, is a faith mandate of ours in terms of perpetual charity and some things that will outlast all of us, and inshallah will be of benefit to us. But I also think it helps to create not only systemic change, but also change that can be sustained for long periods of time.
Yeah, definitely. This reminds me of one of my halakha leaders growing up in high school, Habib Qadri, who many people know of from the Chicago community, and he lived in Michigan for a little bit. And he would always talk to us about like Jannah money, right? Like, what are the things we're going to be doing now in this life that will be our currency in hasanat and our good deeds, right? And I think a lot of this charitable giving and philanthropic goals that families have can all be used for their benefit. As we know in the hadith, it talks about like a ongoing charity that works in benefit of somebody after they pass, right? And a donor advised fund is a fantastic way to kind of have that support be more strategic and outlasting and pass generation to generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's interesting because when I think people are accustomed to, and you probably have experiences, and I definitely have, we work with large community foundations that have, generations of families who've been, pooling money, or have, smaller family foundations that have been giving. And what better way to do that in a way that works with an organization such as the American Muslim Community Foundation, and you all, who understands the cultural nuances, the context, the time, the place, the needs in the community, just as we go for experts in all parts of our life. And I think we, attest to that now of, going to a physician when you're sick, going to a mechanic when you need car help, right? Going to a financial planner when you're trying to really focus on, where you want to go in life and where you want to end up. I think our giving has to take that same approach, as individuals, as a community who wants to continue to build on the legacies of the African American and Black Muslim communities in the United States, and supporting organizations who are building synergies, not only for themselves, I think more importantly across the board, for multiple organizations. And I think we really took that to the next level. And I want to share with you an example of how we did that. I think
Yeah.
just this year, before the pandemic hit, we partnered up with another organization to do a joint fundraising gala. At least in Southern California, that was really new. So the community of Isla LA here in South Central Los Angeles, Imam Sadiq Safir, who for generations, and and his sons and other community members in South LA have been working tirelessly, from the Nation of Islam days to Orthodoxy and onward, of really, before there was social media, before there was the ability to talk about the work that's happening on the ground and sharing it, rightly so. Muhammad Speaks newspapers that were being sold on the corners and talking about community work at its deepest roots, what was being done. There's so much to learn. And, I pitched it to the board, and I, thought it would go 50-50. Um, you know, Putting our organizational representation on the line, doing a split fundraiser, 50%, both on the revenue and expenses side. And alhamdulillah, was a resounding success, not only because we've been collaborating as organizations historically, and it's not like it was something new for us, but I think it really helped to underscore the synergy that exists, especially amongst disparate communities that perhaps don't visibly seem like they're working together, or there's been, unfortunately, many social media outbursts of immigrant and indigenous Muslims and how they're working or not working together. I think it was just a prime example of putting that to rest and showing and leading by example.
I think that's a beautiful example of collaborative spirit and how the community can come together to benefit one another. And really exciting to see that model, and would love to see more community organizations across the country do the same.
Definitely, and I think it's one where, um, it takes a lot of work, right? We're
Of
not
course.
accustomed to, as a community, to maybe respond to that. I think if anything, I think COVID's taught us a lot of lessons as well. But I also think in terms of how we talk about the needs in the community, the needs that have continuously increased, whereas the Muslim community, we fit into that. I mean, I will say. The adaptation, many Muslim organizations who perhaps weren't doing direct social relief work, right? Or direct service work. I mean, you see just an example of food insecurity, right, and how it's been exacerbated by what we're seeing today. There's some studies that have come out recently, most recently from the Annie Casey Foundation, right, saying that in the last week, 14% of households were worried that they don't have enough to eat. And they're not sure exactly where their next meal is going to come from. For minority communities, for Black and Brown communities, that's closer to 25%, right? And I think
Wow.
it's really troubling when we see that 1 in 8 families um, lacks health insurance, access to high quality food and quality food. I mean, these are things that are not specific,
Right.
race specific, community specific. I mean, these things are touching everyone at every single level in our communities during this pandemic.
Yeah, and it's just a reminder to kind of count the blessings that we have, right? Something as simple as health insurance that should be a universal component, right? And I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of deep dive into the services that UMMA Clinic provides on that specific level. Health, people who don't have health insurance, I'm sure, rely on places like UMMA Clinic all across the country. So can you tell us a little bit more about the programs and services that UMMA Clinic provides?
Sure. Since its inception, UMMA was started, quick background for maybe those who aren't familiar with UMMA's history, was started by a volunteer group of Muslim students at Harbor UCLA, at UCLA, at Charles Drew, which is the only historical Black college actually west of the Mississippi, here in South LA. And it was actually fitting too. I mean, that synergy has existed. So, if you look at the work that was being done on the campus of UCLA at the time with Mecha, La Raza, all the student groups, Al Talib newspaper, Black Student Union, interfaith partners on the ground. I mean, how UMMA's current location was actually donated by the county is still a story that surprises me. And I've been told that um, Councilwoman Rita Walters, who recently passed, took a meeting with a group of MSA students from UCLA, and they had this crazy idea of starting a clinic in South LA. And at the end of that meeting, she said, "If you are committed to doing this, I will find you a location." And I will donate it to you, and we will get it. There's community redevelopment funding that was being supported after the civil unrest in the early '90s,
Hmm.
and they walked out of that meeting thinking, it's another elected official, and it might happen, it might not happen. And in just a few weeks, they had a building donated to them, and that was that.
Wow.
Right? It takes courage, it takes inspiration, it takes ability of folks, taking a chance, right? Because Councilwoman Rita Walters did not, she didn't have to go out on a limb. Here are these Muslim students who are just,
Hmm.
pitching her something and it would work or not. So, fast forward 25 years later, and we're the largest health institution in the United States, started by American Muslims. I think it's a testament to, inshallah, hopefully, and shown the sincerity of those students when they started that work, and the continued work that needs to happen in ensuring health equity and access. And so today, we're 70 plus staff of healthcare providers, both on the front lines, administrative staff, providing a range of primary care services, behavioral health services as well. Next year, inshallah, we're opening our first dental facility, and we've recently
Great.
purchased a mobile clinic, and that will be going out in the community. But it's really um, being part of the healthcare home for 1 in 8 Americans in the United States. We're part of a network of community health centers or federally qualified health centers that serves 1 in 8 Americans, right? So people,
Wow.
where do people go, right? If you think everyone goes to the doctor's office, that doesn't work like that. If they have PPO or HMO insurance, right? Where does everyone else go? They come to community health centers like UMMA as their medical home. And we've been able to serve families over 3 and 4 generations now. And actually, one of our board members has been with the clinic for the last 25 years, and she recently came on the board a few years ago. So it's really been, uh, transgenerational type healthcare that we provide,
Hmm.
from newborn babies. Just this year alone, in the midst of the pandemic, we helped
Wow.
deliver 75 healthy babies to healthy moms.
That's
Thankfully,
beautiful.
this year we didn't have any high risk pregnancies. All the babies were healthy, and now we have to, take care of them. We have to vaccinate them. We have to care for their parents, even their grandparents. It's just a beautiful setting, and one that I think the American Muslim community can be proud of, and is truly an example for everyone.
That's really fascinating, and I think that the foresight that these Muslim students had, is profound and something that, has been replicated across the country. And it's great that there's, over 70 Muslim-led health clinics across the country that I'm aware of, and that has been part of a directory that American Muslim Health Professionals has collaborated on. And we would love to see more health clinics learning these best practices that UMMA Clinic has been able to institute. And I think there's a really big opportunity for these networks of healthcare centers really leaning on one another and collaborating and sharing best practices. So in terms of just like, UMMA Clinic's growth over the last 25 years, what are a few key things that, whether it's number of people that you've been able to serve each year, or different programs and benefits to people who come and attend, what are a few things that you'd like to share?
Sure, just this year we celebrated a unique milestone. I think over the years, we've actually saw our 100,000 patient at UMMA Clinic as an organization. I think it's not just a number. Each of those patients has families, lives at stake, an impact to generations, right? Because we understand that being healthy is a human right, right? Access to high quality healthcare is truly a human right. Health equity is one of the most long-standing inequities that as a nation we've been grappling with over the years. And so we understand it's truly whole person care, and that health and healthy living is not just what happens in the four walls of a clinic. And so a few years ago, from patient surveys and talking to patients who really get a deep understanding of their needs, food insecurity was a major concern. And so we can tell patients to eat certain food and have a certain diet, but if we don't give the resources and provide the access for that to happen, especially in a place like South LA, who's historically grappled with some of those issues of food insecurity, then it doesn't matter what happens in the health center. It doesn't matter what happens in the four walls when they're talking to a physician, because it's that behavior change that we all need help with. It's not just patients that live in South LA. I think it's human nature. And so with that, our second clinic location was actually opened on the campus of a local high school, and not only providing health services to the campus students, but it's open to the community. And we chose this location in particular because the school had a vision with LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District, who's a wonderful partner to work with, to do a 1 acre community garden that both the students would have access to, that the community has access to, that there's open space, and community members are actually now written a script for a plot of land where they can, grow their own fruits and vegetables, right? So we talk, prescription wellness script. So instead of getting a pharmacy script, they're getting a script to go and be able to grow their own food, which is really
Nice.
important. And we have some great examples in South LA, like Ron Finley. They call him the gangster gardener. Turning his whole movement that so many people have been inspired by, of being able to do so much when you don't feel like you have the resources and ability. And that's in many ways UMMA's story as well. So fast forward, not only is that food program now going strong. We have other nonprofit partners. We actually started a food distribution program at that same high school where our clinic's located. And
Nice.
so on a monthly basis, we work with LA Food Forward, another great nonprofit. Again, it can't be done without partnerships, that sources extra food in the communities, from wholesale grocery stores to farmers who just have excess food, to people who have like fruit or vegetable gardens in their own backyards and they just don't know what to do with the food. And so they source all that food and they send it out into the community and they give it away for free. And we're actually one of the distribution sites. So on a monthly basis, we're giving around anywhere from 35,000 to 40,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables to community members. And not only that, we're partnering up with 15 organizations who then take it into other communities within South LA. And more than healthcare, more than anything else, we're in the zone, time of vaccines coming out. We have the vaccine for hunger right in front of us, and the vaccine for hunger is food, and
Right.
healthy food for all. And it's really been an honor to be able to do that for the community.
Yeah, I think that's really, testament to the leadership at UMMA Clinic to kind of see what are the things beyond your services that your clients still need assistance with, and then coming up with a creative solution through partnerships to make that happen. So again, another great example of why and how UMMA Clinic is continuing to serve the community. I wanted to ask you as well, just like in terms of general nonprofit or general philanthropy, what are some challenges or advice that you'd like to give to others?
Yeah, it's interesting when you mention networks of Muslim clinics starting around the nation, and I think it's a testament to um, generations of service, that examples we have, again, from the diversity in the Muslim community, and so much such big hearts I feel like our community has to give back, and give back in a way that is sustained. I think almost on a monthly basis I probably talk to 2 or 3 clinics who are being started by masajids in various communities across the United States, or the ability to, or just Muslim physicians who want to volunteer time. I think it was an ISPU study that recently shared that over 5% of physicians in the United States self-identifies as being Muslim. That's huge when we represent about 0.03% of the entire population.
Sure.
And so, where is the ability to keep pushing forward, and that we don't settle for um, the work that we are compelled to do as like extracurricular, right? And that the direct service work and I'll choose the MSA because I feel like that's the best example. Having lived that life is like, you're going to school, you're studying, you want to help out with your MSA, you have other student groups, and it always feels like extra work, right? But why not? Why can't that be our life's work? That there shouldn't be a separation between what your mandate is calling you to do, and obviously, like you said, you study, you go to school, you understand how things develop, but that's also a career choice, right? And those who can then support uplifting that message and doing it in a way that has an Islamic paradigm behind it, right? Because that's what communities do, right? That's how institutions like Cedar Sinai are built. That's why Seventh Day Adventist groups build hospitals. Where is the first American Muslim community hospital in the United States? Right? Where is it, and why isn't it here yet? And I think that's our
Right.
end goal. That's where we want to get to. I think it's an audacious and ambitious plan, but I think the time is now. I think the time is ripe to set those seeds. And even if it doesn't happen in our lifetime, I think if we set the seeds, I'm very, very hopeful in generations that are coming and their ability to adapt and be versatile. So I would just say for anyone out there who's trying to struggle or trying to figure out if they should do something or not, go ahead, jump in, right? And I would say do it in a way that you can institutionalize your work. It's great to continue to start nonprofits if you can identify a need that's not being met, but
Yeah.
you should also continue to uplift organizations who have been in this work for decades and even centuries. I mean, we have some great examples such as Islamic Relief, mashallah, ICNA Relief, other organizations who are definitely on the ground serving. Help uplift that work, right, and augment it and support it as much as possible, and try to make change as you can. But honestly, it really starts local, in identifying those needs, and it'll reverberate with greater impact throughout the country.
Definitely, and hopefully more people will take that advice to implement and see how they can make a difference in their local community as well. I wanted to ask, as we begin to wrap up, if there's anything else that you want to share about UMMA Clinic as well.
No, I tell a lot of folks, come visit us. I know we're in the midst of a pandemic, but check out our website. We're also actively hiring health providers as well. Many of our physicians are Muslim females who come to work with us. It's been hard to recruit. I mean, obviously we're a mid-sized organization. We try to stay competitive with our rates, but if you're so inclined, I would say also look at pursuing this work as a professional opportunity. Don't think, and you can do both, right? I think the dichotomy has always been, oh, you have to maybe go a traditional career route, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what your calling is, and that it can help you make a bigger difference. But I would say feel free to explore other avenues, and look at, I was a political science major, aspirations of law school at some point. Didn't work out, so I did my master's, and then I'm currently in a doctoral program for organizational leadership, because I feel like strong
Nice.
organizations are at the core of who we are, as making sure that the work is being done effectively, and that's also important. So I would just say, it's okay to go against the grain. I know it's not easy, speaking from living an immigrant upbringing and experience, but having very supportive parents. And I think it's often scary because the path isn't paved for you, right? You don't know, like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to, but keep your eyes open, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help continue to guide you, especially if you're your formative years of education or even graduate education, and you want to really sustain yourself. But yeah, I would just say, we need more people to continue inspiring in the world, and I think truly the fruits of what the American Muslim community have to showcase in the United States are yet to come.
Inshallah, yeah, we definitely need more trailblazers. So we need to do our best to recruit them, and show them that the infrastructure is there for them to be successful. So I wanted to ask you, what are three of your personal favorite nonprofits that you give your sadaqah or zakat to?
Sure. For Sadaqah and Zakat, for me, I mean, I like sticking local as much as possible in terms of where communities are doing. So there is a wonderful organization called New Star Family Justice Center. It's based here in Torrance and Hawthorne area. And mashallah, the folks there really don't have, a lot of outward kind of advertising in terms of the work they're doing, and are silently addressing the need of domestic violence in the Muslim community. And so they are working with women who contact them, and I've heard stories, personal stories from them and from others who've been referred to them, that they are the first ones on the front line. I mean, we're talking about folks in abusive relationships leaving in the middle of the night with their kids oftentimes and having nowhere to go and needing medical checkups and having
Wow.
a safe place to stay. And so unabashedly, I give to them. We try to support them in any way as possible. And I think it's really it's called the Family Justice Center. It's a type of movement that's coming in terms of supportive services that these families will need for often long periods of times until they can get back on their feet. It's still important to support them. So that's one, and I give there fairly regularly, and I try to make sure that's part of my rotation. The second one, I think importantly, is also where I benefited from personally as well growing up is Institute of Knowledge, IOK, Sheikh Noman Beg, and understanding
Right.
that no more are we looking for external validation for the lived experience of Islam in America, and that we are supporting a generation of scholars who have both understand the cultural nuances, who have been brought up within the United States, who are successful in their own rights as professionals, but then who also have an Islamic grounding and understanding, and many of whom, continue to push forward and get ijazas and alamiya studies and even mufti courses, and it's such a unique opportunity. And there's so many great institutes like that throughout the United States, and IOK is a major one here locally. And I don't think you can go to a Islamic center, an organization in Southern California, at least, where someone from IOK has not been touched by the work that they're doing in the community. So definitely there. And then last but not least, I think ICNA Relief does some amazing work in local communities. And I think specifically, they have some other free clinics that they've started in many different cities across the United States. I know, the need is always arising throughout different urban centers in the United States, and they have especially gone above and beyond to try to push forward. I know, especially in the midst of a pandemic, their food distribution programs have been spreading far and wide. I know, at least in Southern California, I don't think there's been a community they haven't touched. Dedicated brothers and sisters and many volunteers who have been at the front lines of that work. So those are my three favorite.
Awesome. All of them have been in, they show such great commitment to the community. And thank you for sharing about them. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about the organizations. And this conversation has been super insightful for me just to be able to chat with you about philanthropy, about UMMA Clinic, about best practices, and how the community can continue to engage in this work. So I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much. And I would definitely encourage everyone as a last thing, and don't worry, Muhi didn't tell me to say anything about this, but I really think the work that American Muslim Community Foundation is doing is pioneering. And
Thank
oftentimes
you.
that work is difficult in the beginning. But I think the long term and the strategic visioning that they have for how we can really institutionalize the process of giving, and something that's innate to us as Muslim community members and who are part and parcel of trying to make communities around us better. And if we can do it in a way that continues that level of professionalism and the ability to really have a thought partner more than anything about what your impact, what is the type of impact you want to make in the communities that you live in, you should definitely check out the information they have available on their website and have a conversation. So thank you so much for the work you're doing as well.
I appreciate that, Adel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.